Okay, so page 4, without solving. That's the keyword right here, without solving. It determines the number of solutions. So the fact that it tells me not to solve it, I'm going to look at the big picture. Look at the two equations, compare it, and when you compare it, you can see that this is actually double of this. Real quick. Okay, and if I were to graph both of these lines, the first line, let's say, is that blue one, and then the second one is the red one right here. Where do they meet? Where do they touch? Every single point, all of those. So what is their point of intersection? Everything. So infinite number of solutions, right? Because it's just essentially the same equation, same line, overlapping each other. The second one right here, same thing. If you double it, you'll see that you'll get 4x minus 6y equals 16. So if I were to rearrange these two equations in y equals mx plus b form, I'll get the same slope, but different y-intercept. So same slope, different y-intercept means that they're parallel. And if they're parallel, where do they meet? They never meet, so no solution. Okay. So these two questions right here, because it says without solving, it's meant to be like a 1-minute question. If you went ahead and solved it or tried to do substitution and elimination, you would have wasted 5 minutes of their life. Okay. So on an exam, when you only have 90 minutes, you don't want to waste those time. So make sure you read the question carefully. Same thing right here. It only asks you to set up. So questions where it asks you to set up should take you no more than a minute to do. Do not solve, all right? So for the first one right here, let's say difference of two numbers is 29. So let x be the first number, let y be the second number. So this difference of two numbers, x minus y, is 29 equals 29. 4 times the first, so 4x, plus twice the second, so 2y, is 64, so equals 64. There's your two equations, done. Okay, I just had to set this up. I don't have to do any more. If I were to solve for x and y, what are my 3 methods again? Yep. Right. Okay, graphing, substitution, elimination. And so that's why if it tells you do not solve, do not solve. Otherwise, graphing, substitution, elimination is going to waste another 5 minutes. Okay. This one right here, sum of two numbers is 25, so x plus y equals 25. 5 times the smaller, so 5x, is equal. 3 more, so 3 plus, and then double the larger, so 2y. Okay, and there's your two equations. C, coin machine has $45.50 in dimes and quarters. With this question, whenever you get a question where it talks about dimes, quarters, nickels, these, make sure you include the dollar value of those coins. So a dime is 0.10, quarter is 0.25. What are nickels? But as a decimal? 0.05, right. If you put 0.5, that's 50 cents. What about loonie? 1. Toonie? 2, right. Okay, so make sure you include those decimal values of those coins. So your first equation is going to be 0.10D plus 0.25Q equals the 45.50. There are 12 more dimes than quarters. So if you recall back when we did these word problems, the trick that I taught you guys was like the one that have more, put it as that equal. So I have more dimes, so put it as D equal. And then 12 more dimes than quarters, so it's 12 plus Q. Okay. If some of you put Q equals 12 plus D, that's totally different. So make sure the little trick was the more, you put it as that equal to. All right. So you have two investment worth $50,000. So if I said let X be my 2.5% investment and Y to be the 4% investment, when you add up the two investment, it would be the 50,000. And then the second equation would be the 2.5%, change that to a decimal, so it's 0.025 times the amount of investment you have for the first part, plus 0.404 times the second part of the investment, and then it equals 425. So that 425 is already the interest. So they already calculated it for you. You earn 425, so it's just equals that. Okay. E, we did a bunch of these before during class. So there's the 85% solution and the 60% solution, and you want to make a total of 500 milliliters of a 70% solution. So let X be the first type, let Y be the second type. In total, you want 500 milliliter. Second equation, again, this is the percentage. 0.85 times the first type plus 0.60 times the second type equal 70% of 500. So be careful. Don't forget this 500. Notice here is percent times amount plus percent times amount equal percent times amount. So during your test, a lot of people still forgot to times this by the 500. So remember consistency, right? So it should be set up the same way. But if you look at this one, how come this one I didn't have to times by 50,000? Because they didn't give you a percentage. They gave you the actual amount already. So they did that timesing for you and gave you that 425. Okay. And then the last one, trail mix and Smarties. Why you want kilogram of Smarties? I don't know. Okay, so in total, you actually want 10 kilograms of Smarties and trail mix. So T plus S equals 10, and then you have $9 times the trail mix, plus $14.50 for Smarties, and in total, you want it to cost $10.75. Again, for how much? For 10 kilograms. So you have this. Okay. This formula right here, we did this in class. It was for exponential growth formula. I don't recall you having to use this in the exam, but just to recap, like a quick recap, AL means the amount left. A naught is the initial amount. R is like if it's a tripling, then it's 3. If it's half the original, then it's 1/2. T is the time in the question, and then N is how often it changes, how often it revolves. So I don't remember if it's on the exam. I don't think so, but just to refresh your memory on this question.
Can you repeat the formula again? I missed what was the second.
This?
Yeah, what's that?
Oh, so AL is amount left. A naught, so A0 is the original amount. R is the rate. T is the time in the question. And N is how often it changes.
When you write your let statement, would it just be like number of elements and number of studies?
Oh, good question. So I got lazy and I didn't define any of my variables here. Well, I did for a little bit, but these are not the best definitions. So even for this one, I should have said amount invested in the 2.5% investment. And then this is also amount invested in the 4% investment. In this case, this one, the T would be the amount of trail mix in kilogram, and S would be the amount of Smarties in kilograms.
What about question
8? Question?
The one with the acid.
This one? Yeah, so amount of the 85% solution. Amount of 60% solution. This one though, what would your D be? What would D represent? Yeah. Number of times. Good. You don't say amount of times, but sounds weird. So number of times in this one. And then this one would be X being the smaller number, Y being the larger number. Okay. Next page. All right. So on the exam, you will not be asked if it's a function. You need to know that for grade 11. All right. And that's why the grade 11 course, the grade 11 math course is called grade 11 functions because all you do in that class is functions. And there's a whole chapter on deciding if these are functions or not. So I'm going to try to explain that chapter to you guys in 2 minutes. All right. But again, you won't be asked that in the final exam. Okay, so for this one, if I were to state the domain and range for this first set, if I were to graph it, all that means is I'm going to get 4 points. All right, so 4 points. No lines, no connecting them. It's just 4 points. So my domain, meaning what my x value could be, is just -5, -4, -3, -2. So my x values. Okay, and I just list it like this. I don't do the greater than, less than, because it's just 4 discrete points. My range, which represents my y value. So what are my y values for these points? It's -1, 0, and 2. So that's all it is. I just list out those 3. Right? So now, to figure out if it's a function or not, there's what's called a vertical line test. Okay, so I'm going to try to attempt to teach you guys a whole chapter in 2 minutes. Okay, vertical line test is if you draw a straight line anywhere in your graph, okay, it will only go through 1 point. If it goes through only 1 point, then it is a function. If it doesn't, it goes through 2, 3, 4, 5 points, then it's not a function. Right? That's all it is. So for example, in this one, okay, I could draw that vertical line anywhere. How many points does it go through?
1.
1. And so, yeah, it's a function. Ta-da! There you go. So in grade 11, you guys better ace that chapter.
So how do you know that all 4 of those coordinates make a line?
They don't.
Oh.
Yeah.
And how do you
If it's a line, it would be a linear equation.
and how do you get it to
How do you get?
I'm not really sure how you got the
So-
graph.
No, it's just the 4 dots. The red lines was the vertical line test. Yeah, it's not part of the graph. Okay, so let's do another example. So I have this oval right here. What are the x values for this oval? Well, my x value could be anywhere between -4 and +4. So that's why I have to write it like this with a boundary. Okay? With my range, it's my y value. So what y value can this oval take on? Anything between -3 and 3. Okay? So now vertical line test. I draw a vertical line down. It goes through 2 points on my graph. And so therefore, it's not a function. Okay? All right. Let's see with this one. Part 3, it's a parabola. A parabola that opens downwards and goes on forever. So what's my domain? Yeah. XER. So I know me and even like you guys and even me, I say XER. Technically, if you were to say it properly, is X belongs to all the real numbers. Yeah, so this is not actually a E right here. It's the belong to sign, symbol. So X belongs to all the real numbers. Now, I know that some textbook or some of you could also write it like this. Okay, so negative infinity to positive infinity. If you want, you can write it like that as well. It means the same thing. Okay, what about your range then for this parabola? That has a maximum of 2. You guys did a lot of this in your accommodating. Y less than. If you just say y less than 2, you lose half a mark. Y less than or equal to 2, right? All right. And then is this a function? Yeah. Vertical line test, put that line anywhere. It only goes through 1 point, so yes, it is. Yep.
What was the thing beside the said? Writing negative x.
Oh, negative infinity and positive infinity. So the 8 sideways.
Is this on the exam? Functions?
No, function is not on the exam, but you'll need to know it for grade 11. It's like really big in grade 11. Okay. Next, this chart right here. So you have this. Okay. By the way, what form is this? Yeah. Vertex form or? Standard, right? It's also vertex and standard, right? So for this one, your vertex 0, 4. Axis of symmetry, x equals 0, because you didn't shift it left, you didn't shift it right, you only shifted up. Concavity, it means the same thing as just does it open out up or open down? So that's what concavity means. So it opens upwards. Since it opens up, that means it's a minimum. And where's that minimum? At y equals 4. Right? When does it occur? It occurs at your vertex, so when x equals 0. Domain is XER, and your range is anything greater or equal to 4. Okay, so Samir, if you don't have your booklet, you can take a piece of paper and write down these answers. Okay. Second one, this one is also in vertex form. So 3, 0, axis of symmetry, x equals 3. It opens down because of that negative in the front. Since it opens down, I know it's a maximum. And it's at 0 because I did shift it up, didn't shift it down, so y is at 0. When at x equals 3, it's a parabola, so XER, and your range is anything less than or equal to 0. Okay. When you do these questions, remember, if it opens up, it has to be a minimum, and your range has to be greater. If it opens down, it has to be a maximum, and your range is anything less. Okay, so that is like a combo. Okay, row 3. Your vertex -5, +2, x equals -5, opens downwards, maximum at 2. It occurs at -5. All the real numbers, and y is less than or equal to 2. Remember, domain is x. Range is the y's. I've seen people tell me that the domain is y greater than 4. And then I go like this. After teaching 5 months, you mix up domain and range. Okay. This one is a little tricky right here because they moved that this is not in vertex form. You have to move that +6 over to the other side. So now it becomes -6, and then it's in vertex form. So after you move it, then your vertex is -2, -6. X equals -2, opens upwards, minimum at -6. At negative at x equals -2. All these parabola, it goes on forever, left and right. So it's XER, and then your range is anything greater than -6. Okay, you should be really good with this because we did tons of these charts. Okay. And then lastly, to graph it. So to graph it, this is the same equation right here. So I know my vertex is -2 and -6 right here. My A value is half. So I'm gonna do the step method. Over 1, up half a box. Over 1, up 1.5 box. Over 1, up 2.5 box. Over 1, up 3.5 box. So after you have those points, there's your parabola. Okay. This I actually did 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. I did 9 points right here. You don't have to do so many. I just wanted to show a few more so that you can see it better. Right? On the test, I don't need you to be on the exam. I don't need you guys to be artists, but your parabola should look like a parabola. All right, so it should not look like a circle. It should not look like a V. It should not curve back inwards. Okay, so mainly what I'm looking for in your parabola is the vertex and at least 2 more points. Okay. This one right here, -5 and 4. So this point opens downwards with the A value of 2. So over 1, down 2. Over 1, down 6. And then over 1, down 9. And then there's my parabola. So these ones right here, it should take you really fast to do if you do the step method. If you don't do the step method, you hate it, you want to do a table of value instead, sure, you could do that. Just that it might take you a longer time, but there's nothing wrong with it. And also make sure if you do your table of value, I see the vertex. So your vertex should be in the middle of your table. Okay. Okay, all good. So you can be sure that you'll see something like this. You'll see something like this on the exam. But you'll definitely need to know how to graph a problem. That's like the biggest thing in grade 10. All right. This one, graph the following, show all step, complete the square. It even tells you to complete the square. So factor out the A in the first 2 terms. Okay. And then take half of the middle term, square it. So -4 squared gives you +16 minus 16. Now I can factor this trinomial, which is x minus 4. Remember, this minus 4 is because it's half of this number. Okay, square it, and then bring this number out. So 2 times -16 is -32. So when you combine these two, you get -3. So your vertex is 4, -3. Don't forget when you do the complete the square, you always do the adding and then the subtracting. So plus and then minus. Okay. To solve for x-intercept, you will let y equal 0. So you have this equation right here. What are the 2 methods to solving x? Yep. Right, factoring or quadratic formula. So taking 10 seconds to see if this is factorable, because factoring is faster. Taking 10 seconds to see if this is factorable. 29 is a prime number, so no, I can't. I won't get anywhere close to -16, which means quadratic formula. 2 is A, B is -16, C is 29. Sub it into the formula, -B, so that's why you have that double negative right here. And then if you plug in everything, you would get 16 plus or minus 4.9 over 4. All right. So your 2 sides, one is 16 plus 4.9 divided by 4. The other is 16 minus 4.9 divided by 4. So you get your 2 x-intercepts. All right. If I were to just quickly sketch this, well, I know my vertex is 4, -3. My 2 x-intercepts right here. There you go, something like that. All right. Another thing is you can check if you know this is your vertex and that this opens upwards, you know that you should get 2 x-intercepts. Okay? If you did something wrong here and you don't get any x-intercept or you only get 1, you know you've made a mistake. Okay, and then just to show quadrant, remember this one is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Okay, so quadrants. Okay. Okay. B is the same thing, so I'm just to save time, we won't do that. But it's the same thing. Factor out that -3, so you know it opens downwards. Okay. Same thing with these ones. Find the coordinate of the vertex. I could complete the square, or what's the shortcut way? Since notice I didn't say what method you have to use. I didn't say what method you have to use, and it's in standard form. What's the shortcut in finding the vertex? Nobody remembered the shortcut? It will save you some time on the final exam. Yeah, do you remember the shortcut? Close. Okay, so on the exam, if you don't remember the formula, then go with completing the square. -b over 2a. Okay, this is the shortcut in finding the vertex. So your a is -2, your b is -8, your c is -11. So -b over 2 times a, you get 8 over -4. So x is -2. Okay. How do I find the y value? The math is very funny too, right? How do I find y now? Right? I found x, so how do I find y? Okay, so you want to substitute it in for your x to find y. So -2, sub in that -2 for x, sub in that -2 for x, minus 11. So you get 4 plus 16, 20, 20 minus 11, 9. So my vertex, -2, 9. Okay. So I'm assuming you guys all did complete the square. Okay. So Taisha, what did you get for 4a? You got the same thing. Did you do complete the square? Yeah. All right. So two ways for you guys to do to find the vertex if it doesn't specify. So you could either complete the square to find the vertex, or you could do this formula to find the vertex. Okay. Page 7. Page 7, I want to go over it with you guys because some people found it confusing. So I'll just take up page 7 with you as well, and then I'll let you guys work on the rest. Okay, so again, this says set up, but also simplify it after you put them together. So the sum of two numbers is 30. So just like the other page, just like page 4, all right, I know to write it as x plus y equals 30. Find the numbers if the sum of their square is to be a minimum. All right. So what's different with this question and the ones from page 4 is page 4 told you another number, so you were able to solve it. This time they want you to set up the equation to solve for a minimum. So I'm gonna write this: sum of their square, so x squared plus y squared equals m. M representing minimum. Okay. And then here I would isolate the y and then substitute it in So then now my equation here, my minimum equals x squared plus negative x plus 30 squared. Expand this out and then collect like terms. And so that's my equation. My simplified quadratic function is this. Minimum value equals 2x squared minus 88 minus 60x plus 900. Okay. So this is the quadratic function to help me find the minimum, right? My morning class had trouble with figuring out what it should equal to. So you could just give it any variable. Okay. In grade 11, instead of just any variable, we use something like this. Right? This is called f at x. So it's just like what I was saying, like grade 11 course is all about functions. So this is just a function notation. It means the same thing as any variable. Okay, so then this is your answer. It only asks you to set up, so that's it. If I were to solve for this, if I ask you to actually solve it, what am I doing? Am I completing the square to find the vertex? Am I doing quadratic formula to solve for x? What's my next step if I were to solve it? Because, yeah, remember minimum, maximum means vertex. Okay, so in this case, what I'm looking for is the x value of my vertex. So since I'm only looking for the x value of my vertex, this is the time where this is probably the easier method, because this will just help you find x. I don't need the y. So this would be faster. All right. So I know it's tempting. Once you see this, you're thinking, oh, I need to solve for x. Let me do quadratic formula. But maximum, minimum means vertex, vertex, vertex. Okay. B, similarly, difference of two numbers is 25. So x minus y equals 25. I can isolate it, so rearrange it. So y is x minus 25. Find the numbers if their product is to be minimal. So again, I could say this. Their product means x times y equals m. So I replace that y with x minus 25 and then multiply it out. So I get this, x squared minus 25x. Okay. And again, to find the number, I could use this to figure out what the x value would be. Okay. Okay. Part C. So, GO train carries 5,000 passengers per day, and they charge $10.50 per ticket. Yes, it's very expensive. And they said if they increase it by 50 cents, 100 less people would ride their GO train. So what ticket price would give maximum revenue? So we did tons of these in class. So just like how we set it up here, we use M for minimum. I'm just using R for revenue. Okay. So again, it's this variable that you use. It doesn't matter what it is. Grade 11, we use f at x. Grade 10, use any. Right. So in this case, I have R equal 10.50, but I want to do 50 cents increase. So plus 50 cents, plus 0.5x. And because I do that, I'm going to lose 100 customers. So 5,000 minus 100x. When you do FOIL, expand it out, you'll get this quadratic equation. So this question, because we did so many of these in class, it's possible. It's possible to see the whole question on the final exam. If I really do ask you what ticket price gives the maximum revenue, what's my next step? Right, we just went over it. Yeah. Vertex. Ta-da. All right. Complete the square or the shortcut. Yeah. Okay. And let's say after you plug it in, you get x equals 3. That's the thing. Then you will plug it in here. 10.50 plus 50 cents times 3. That would mean the ticket price should be $12. Okay? Because remember, x represents the number of increases. Okay? So, and we did so many of these in class. I won't be surprised if I see something like this on the exam. Okay. So remember, whenever it says maximum, minimum, you're looking for vertex. Okay. This last one, farmer has 100 meters of fencing. All right. So in this diagram right here, so 100 meters of fencing altogether, which means it's your perimeter. Okay. So x plus x plus x plus x plus y equals 100. So I have that equation. I can isolate it. So y equals negative 4x plus 100. And then what dimension gives the maximum area? So again, I can use any variable I want. A for area sounds like a good idea. So area equals x times y because it's length times width. Okay. Substitute this equation in for y. I have this. So when I expanded it out, I get this equation. Okay, I get this quadratic equation. Okay. Right. So for this one, again, find a vertex, either complete the square or using this. Right. And then once you know what x is, then you can substitute it in here to find out what y is. Okay. So I wanted to go over this page because my morning class had some trouble with this page. So I didn't want you guys to struggle, so I thought I'll take it up with you guys. Okay. Okay, so we have about 15 minutes left since today's a short class. Your homework is by Thursday night, finish all the way up to page 13. Yes, it seems like it's a lot of pages, but it's doable.